other videos out, so I guess the last video I put out, we talked about Achilles, a Greek war hero. Today we're going to talk about the 12 Olympians, the 12 Olympian Greek gods. Anybody can tune in when they want at their own leisure. Leave comments, let me know what you guys are thinking, and what other videos you guys want me to do in the next coming weeks to get out there. So with the 12 Olympians, there's 12 Greek gods in Greek mythology. In ancient Greek religion and mythology, the 12 Olympians are the major deities of the Greek pantheon, which are commonly considered to be Zeus, Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, Aphrodite, Athena, Artemis, Apollo, Ares, Hephaestus, Hermes, or either Hestia or Dionysus. And they were called Olympians because, according to tradition, they resided on top of Mount Olympus. Now outside of the 12 Olympians, there were many other cultic groupings of 12 gods or more. Usually it's mainly 12 gods and nothing higher than that. Now, the Olympians are a race of deities that are primarily consisted of third and fourth generations of immortal beings. Now, they were worshipped as the principal gods of the Greek pantheon, and so named because of their residency atop Mount Olympus. Now, they gained their supremacy in a 10-year-long war of gods in which Zeus led his siblings to victory over the previous generation of ruling, the generation of ruling immortal beings. Now, the Titans, children of the primordial deities Gaia and Uranus, they were a family of gods. Now, the most important is consistent of the first generation of Olympians and the offspring of the Titans, Kronos and Rhea. Now, Zeus, Poseidon, Hera, Demeter, and Hestia, along with the principal offspring of Zeus, Aphrodite, Athena, Artemis, Apollo, Ares, Hephaestus, Hermes, and Dionysus. Although Hades was a major deity in the Greek pantheon and was the brother of Zeus and the other first generation of Olympians, his realm was too far away from Olympus and the underworld, and thus he was not usually considered to be one of the Olympians. Now, the Olympic gods can be contrasted to chthonic gods, including Hades and his wife Persephone, by mode of sacrifice, and the latter receiving sacrifices in a bathros or megaron, which is like a name like a sunken chamber, rather than an altar. Now the canonical number of Olympian gods was 12, but besides the 13 principal Olympians listed above, there were many other residents of Olympus. Now, there were many other residents of Olympus who thus might be considered to be Olympians. Now, Heracles became a resident of Olympus after he married another Olympian resident, Hebe. Now, according to Diodorus Siculus, no, I don't think there is. I don't think there is an Olympian named Larry. But hell. Now, according to Diodorus Siculus, some said that Heracles was offered a place among the 12, but refused, as it would mean one of the original 12 being cast out. And it's kind of tough to be cast out. Now, in the Iliad, the goddess Themis, who is listed among the 12 Titans, dwells on Olympus alongside the other gods, but making her a Titan and an Olympian at the same time. According to Hesiod, the children of Styx, Zealous, which means envy, Nike meaning victory, Kratos means strength, and Bia being force, have no house apart from Zeus, nor any dwelling, nor path except that we're talking about 12 Olympian gods. And they have no house apart from Zeus, but no dwelling nor path except that wherein God leads them, but they dwell always with Zeus. Now some others who might be considered Olympians include Hore, the Graces, the Muses, Alithia, Iris, Dion, and Ganymede, or Ganymede, whatever that is. Um, Now, if you see over here, you got what's supposed to be Theseus slaying the Minotaur under the gaze of Athena. Um, so I love this Greek mythology stuff goes back thousands of years, and it's always entertained me. Um, Now, besides the 12 Olympians, there were many other various cultic groupings of 12 gods throughout ancient Greek. Um, now, now, if you go to the country Greece, that's where a lot of the Greek mythology started. Now, besides the 12 Olympians, like I said, there was many various cultic groupings of 12 gods throughout ancient Greece. The earliest evidence of Greek religious practice involving 12 gods comes no earlier than the late 6th century BC. Um, now, according to legend, an altar of the 12 gods was established in the Agora of Athens by the archon Pisist, um, Pisistratus, son of Hippias, and the grandson of the tyrant Pisistratus, around 522 BC. Now, the altar became the central point from which distance from Athens were measured in a place of supplication and refuge. Now, while Olympia apparently also had an early tradition of 12 gods, now the Homeric hymn to Hermes has the god Hermes divide a sacrifice of 2 cows he has stolen from Apollo into 12 parts on the banks of the river Elphesus, which is presumably at Olympia. Now, next, glad-hearted Hermes dragged the rich meats he had prepared and put them on the smooth, flat stone, and he divided them into 12 portions distributed by lot, making each portion wholly honorable. Now, Pindar, in an ode written or ode whatever you call that, um, was written to be sung at Olympia around 480 BC, has Heracles sacrificing alongside the Alpheus to the 12 ruling gods. Now, Heracles, who enclosed the altus all around and marked it off on the open, and he made the encircling area a resting place for feasting, honoring the stream of the Ephesus along with the 12 ruling gods. Now, another of Pindar's Olympian mentions 6 double altars. Now, Herodotus of Heraclea, around 400 BC, also has Heracles founding a shrine at Olympia with 6 pairs of gods, each pair sharing a single altar. Now, many other places had cults of the 12 gods, including um, Delos, Chalcedon, Magnesia of the on the Meander, and Leontino or Leontinoi in Sicily. As with the 12 Olympians, although the number of gods was fixed at 12, the membership would constantly vary. Now, while the majority of the gods included members of these other cults of 12 gods were Olympians, non-Olympians were also sometimes included in this. Now, for example, Herodotus of Heraclea identified the 6 pairs of gods at Olympia as Zeus, Poseidon, Hera, Athena, Hermes, and Apollo, the Graces and Dionysus, Artemis and Alpheus, and Kronos and Rhea. Now, thus, while this list includes the 8 Olympians, Zeus, Poseidon, Hera, Athena, Hermes, Apollo, Artemis, and Dionysus, it also contains 3 clear non-Olympians. Now, the Titan parents of the first generation of Olympians, Kronos and Rhea, and the river god Alpheus, with the status of the Graces, here apparently counted as one god being unclear. Now, Plato connected 12 gods with the 12 months and implies to be considered Pluto or Hades, one of the 12, and proposing that the final month be devoted to him and the spirits of the dead. Now, the Roman poet Ennius gives the Roman equivalents um, as six male and female complements, preserving the place of Vesta, which means Hestia, who played a crucial role in Roman religion as a state goddess, maintained by the Vestals. Now, now there, now there is no single canonical list of the 12 Olympian gods, but the 13 Greek gods and goddesses, along with their Roman counterparts, most commonly considered to be one of the 12 Olympians, are listed below here, and we're going to take a look at this. Um, you got Zeus in Greek mythology and his Roman counterpart Jupiter. And then it also gives a description of what each god was known for. Now, Zeus. So you got Zeus, who's the king of the gods and rulers of Mount Olympus. Um, um, and he was the young and he's the god of the sky, lightning, thunder, law, and order and justice. Now, the youngest child of the Titans, Kronos and Rhea, and he's the brother and husband of Hera and brother of Poseidon, Hades, Demeter, and Hestia. He had many affairs with the goddesses and mortals, such as his sister Demeter and Leto, but mortals Leda and Alcmene, and more. His symbols include the thunderbolt, eagle, oak tree, bull, scepter, and scales. Hera, and her Roman counterpart is Juno. Now, Hera is the queen of the gods and the goddesses of marriage, women, childbirth, and family, the youngest daughter of Kronos and Rhea, and she's the sister wife of Zeus. But being the goddess of marriage, she's frequently tried to get revenge on Zeus's lovers and their children, and her symbols include the peacock, cuckoo, and the cow. You got Poseidon and his Roman counterpart Neptune. Poseidon is the god of the sea. Poseidon is the god of the seas, the water, the storms, the hurricanes, earthquakes, and horses. He's the middle son of Kronos and Rhea, but brother of Zeus and Hades, and he's married to the Nereid Amphitrite. Although, as with many of the male Greek gods, he had numerous lovers. His symbols include the trident, the horse, the bull, and the dolphin. And then you have Demeter and her counterpart Ceres, and her Roman counterpart Ceres, goddess of the harvest, fertility, agriculture, nature, and the seasons. She presided over grains and the fertility of the earth. She's the middle daughter of Kronos and Rhea, and also the lover of Zeus and Poseidon. And she's the mother of Persephone, Arion, and Despoine. Her symbols include the poppy, the wheat, torch, cornucopia, and a pig. Apollo, also his Roman counterpart is also Apollo, so it wouldn't make any difference. Apollo is the god of the sun, light, prophecy, philosophy, archery, truth, inspiration, poetry, music, arts, beauty, medicine, healing, and plague. He's the son of Zeus and Leto, and the twin brother of Artemis. His symbols include the bow and the arrow, a lyre, a raven, a swan, and a wolf. Artemis, and her Roman counterpart is Diana. Now Artemis is the goddess of the hunt, the wilderness, virginity, the moon, archery, childbirth, protection, and plague. And she's the daughter of Zeus and Leto, and the twin sister of Apollo. Her symbols include the moon, the horse, deer, hound, she-bear, snake, a cypress tree, and a bow and arrow. Ares, who's the Roman counterpart, is the Greek counterpart, and his Roman counterpart is Mars. Now, Ares is the god of war, violence, bloodshed, and manly virtues. He's the son of Zeus and Hera, and all the other gods despised him except Aphrodite. His Latin name Mars gave us the word martial. His symbols include the boar, the serpent, the dog, the vulture, the scepter, vulture, spear, and shield. Athena. So you get the idea. So then you got Athena and her Roman equivalent Minerva. Um, now with Athena, Athena is the goddess of wisdom and handicraft and battle strategy. Now the daughter of Zeus and the Oceanid Metis, she rose from her father's head fully grown and in full battle armor. Her symbols include the owl and the olive tree. Um, Hephaestus and his Roman counterpart Vulcan. Hephaestus is a master blacksmith and craftsman of the gods, and he's the god of the forge, craftsmanship, invention, fire, and volcanoes. Um, he's the son of Hera, and either by Zeus or through parthenogenesis, and he's married to Aphrodite. His Latin name Vulcan gave us the word volcano, and his symbols include fire, anvil, axe, a donkey, hammer, tongs, and quail. Um, Aphrodite, who's also named and her Roman counterpart is Venus. Now, Aphrodite is the goddess of love, pleasure, passion, procreation, fertility, beauty, and desire. She's the daughter of Zeus and either the and Dion, or perhaps born from the sea foam after Uranus's blood dripped into the sea after being castrated by his youngest son Cronus, who then threw his father's genitals into the sea. And he married and she's married to Hephaestus, although she had many adulterous affairs, most notably with Ares. Her name gave us the word aphrodisiac, while her Latin name Venus gave us the word venereal. Her symbols include the dove, the bird, the apple, the bee, the swan, myrtle, and rose. Now then you got Hermes, whose Roman counterpart is Mercury. And Hermes is the messenger of the gods. He's the god of travel, commerce, communication, borders, eloquence, diplomacy, thieves, and games. He was also the guider of dead souls. Now the son of Zeus and the nymph Maya, the second youngest Olympian, just older than Dionysus. His symbols include the staff entwined with two snakes, the wing sandals and cap, stork and tortoise, whose shell he used to invent the lyre. Now, and these are some of the people that were listed, even though nobody really talked about them being with the 12 Olympians. You have Hestia, whose Roman counterpart was Vesta. Hestia is the goddess of the hearth, fire, and the right ordering of domesticity and the family. She was born into the first Olympian generation and was one of the 12 original Olympians. She is the first child of Kronos and Rhea, and she's the elder sister of Hades, Demeter, Poseidon, Hera, and Zeus. Now, some lists of the 12 Olympians omit her in favor of Dionysus, but the speculation that she gave her throne to him in order to keep the peace seems to be modern invention. Now, then the other one is Dionysus. In Roman equivalent, his name is Bacchus Liber. Now, Dionysus is the god of wine, the grapevine, fertility, festivity, ecstasy, madness, and resurrection. He's a patron god of the art of theater. Now he's the son of Zeus, and the mortal Theban princess Semele, and he's married to the Cretan princess Ariadne. Now the youngest Olympian god is almost the only one to have a mortal parent. His symbols include the grapevine, the ivy, the cup, the tiger, panther, leopard, dolphin, goat, and pinecone. Now we can go into some of these other Greek gods I have not talked about by clicking on their names here. Let's see, we did a video about Zeus. I don't think we did one about Hera, but let's go into Hera here. Okay. Okay, so with Hera, because I don't think we did a video about Hera, but let's see here. So in ancient Greek religion, Hera is the goddess of marriage, women, and family, and the protector of women during childbirth. But in Greek mythology, she is considered to be the queen of the 12 Olympians at Mount Olympus, and she's the sister wife of Zeus. and daughter of the Titans Kronos and Rhea, and one of her defining characteristics in myth is her jealousy and vengeful nature in dealing with many who offended her, especially when it comes to Zeus's numerous adulterous lovers and illegitimate offspring. Um, iconography usually presents her as a dignified matronly figure, upright or enthroned, crowned with a polos or diadem, sometimes veiled as a married woman. Um, she is the patron goddess of lawful marriage. She presides over weddings, blesses and legalizes marital unions, and she protects women from harm during childbirth. Her sacred animals, like we had mentioned, include the cow, the cuckoo, and peacock. And she is sometimes shown holding a pomegranate as an emblem of immortality. Her Roman counterpart is Juno, and this is a statue of Hera. If you can see that here. Um, Now, the name Hera has several possible and mutually exclusive etymologies. Now, one possibility is to connect it with the Greek word hora, meaning season, and to interpret it interpret it as ripe for marriage, and according to Plato, meaning beloved. And Zeus is said to have married her for love. Now, according to Plutarch, Hera was an allegorical name and an anagram of Hera. So begins the section on Hera and Walter Burkett's Greek religion. Now, in a note, he records other scholars' arguments for the meaning mistress as a feminine to Heros, and master with uncertain origin. John Chadwick, a decipherer of Linear B, remarks that her name may be connected with Heros, meaning hero. Um, but that is no help since it is too etymologically obscure. Um, A.J. Van Wildenkins offers young cow, heifer, which is consonant with Hera's common epithet meaning cow-eyed. R.S.P. Beeks has suggested a pro-Greek religion, or a pre-Greek religion. Her name is attested in Messenian Greek, written in the Linear B syllabic script as Era, appearing on tablets found in Pylos and Thebes, as well as in the Cypriotic dialect and the dative era. Now the pi could be originally either A, the female who is attached and coupled with, or B, the female who attaches herself both socially and physically or emotionally. And many theoporic names such as Heracles, Heraclitus, and Herodotus, and Herodicus derive from the name Hera. Um, Now Hera um, bore several epithets in the mythological tradition and in literature. Now, in the historical times, the majority of the Greeks recognized Hera as the consort of Zeus. Now, Hera is the protector of marriage and of the rights of the married women. In some cults, she has some functions of the earth goddess, but she is occasionally related to warfare as a tutelary goddess. Now, 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 with Hera being the goddess of marriage and bride, she saw over a lot of them. Gamaliel's presiding over marriage, which was a sacrifice to Hera, and it ensured a happy married life. Gamastolos leading the troop of marriage. Nymph, Nymphomene, which led as a bride at Plataea in relation to her festival Daedalus. Um, then you got the Parthenos, which means virgin. Um, Pious, child in her Pious, which means child in her role as virgin at Stymphalos, and so on and so on. Now, in historical times, the majority of the Greeks recognized Hera as the consort of Zeus. Now, Zeus was the protector of rights and morals and mores, and his partner Hera became the protector of legal marriage and the rights of married women. Now Hera emerged from a form of the Messenian goddess of the palace and became the spouse of Zeus. Now, modern scholars suggest that Hera is not the only Olympian sky goddess, but in some cults she may be identified with the earth goddess. Now her ancient connection with her sacred animal, the cow, still exists in historical times, and she is probably related to the Near Eastern forms of the cow goddesses, such as Hathor or Bat. The Greek earth goddess Gaia is occasionally identified with Hera, but Gaia may be related to the Vedic earth goddess Parithi, who is also associated with the cow. Now, now in Messenian Greek, an inscription in Linear B on a tablet found at Pylos mentions offerings to Zeus, Hera, and Dramios is the who's the son of Zeus. Now, now now Hera is the tutelary goddess of Argos, and it is possible that she had Messenian origin. Now, Martin P. Nilsson suggested that Hera um is mainly the Argi, a name given by Homer, which describes her as not being Greek but as an Argive goddess. Now, she is the protector of the citadel, in literature now in the literature Argos is called Doma Heras, the house of Hera, and the Argives are called her people by Pindar. Um, Homer in the Iliad uses the formula Bupis Patnia, which means cow-eyed mistress Hera, which probably relates her to a form of the Mediterranean goddess of nature. Um, now the epithet Uwija, meaning Bupis, appears in a Linear B inscription. Walter Burkett notices that it is difficult to confirm that the epithet Balpus corresponds to a Greek belief. Now, however, it is possible that Hera was conceived as a cow in her archaic cults. Now, Hera, like I said, Hera is the consort of Zeus. Um, um, so Hera exists as a spouse of Zeus in their sacred marriage, which was celebrated in many Greek festivals in a ceremony from ancient times. Now, the myth of the premarital approach of Hera by Zeus is early mentioned by Homer. It is possible that the myth has its origins to an old custom of the European country population. The premarital intercourse of the engaged couple, according to Walter Burkett, the Mediterranean goddess of nature, becomes the bride of the Greek sky god. He notices that the disappearance and retrieval of Hera has parallels with other fertility cults. Now Hera was originally a goddess of fertility in her fest Tonia at Samos and at Knossos at Crete. Um, Now at Samos, the image of Hera was hidden, mounted in willows, and the participants tried to discover it. At Knossos, Zeus is mating with the earth goddess, finally named Hera, in a very ancient ritual. In her festival Daedala at Plataea, there's an account of Hera's quarrel with Zeus and and reconciliation. She also has Near Eastern origin. Excuse me. Now, in Crete, the bull was associated with religious practices. Now, in the legend of the Minotaur, the queen of Knossos is hidden inside an artificial hollow cow, and she is mating with a bull form god in a sacred ceremony. Now the Hyros Gamos indicates a ritual of fertility magic, which was probably introduced from Near East in the Aegean region. now the excuse me. Now the Hyros Gamos of Zeus, with the earth goddess finally named Hera, was celebrated at Knossos in Crete. In Near East, the solar deity and the moon goddess are often represented as a bull and a cow. And Rocher proposed that Hera was a moon goddess, but the combination feminine divinity cow-moon is not unusual in Crete and Near East. Now, the relationship of Hera with the cow still existed in the historical times, and this probably relates her. And this probably relates her to Near Eastern forms of cow goddess like Hathor or Bat, and the Egyptian sky goddess Hathor is the consort of the sky god Horus. Hold on a second. Um, uh, um, and then you also got Indo-European origin. In the Vedic tradition, the earth goddess Prithvi is the consort of the sky god Dyaus, and she is associated with the cow. Now, Prithvi may be identified with the Greek goddess Gaia, um, Parasitus of Cyrus, as in his cosmo as in his cosmo in his in his cosmology describes the mating of the two divine principles. Now, the marriage of Zas with Caphone, Jeffrey Kirk notices that after their marriage, the word becomes G, who probably takes charge of the protection of marriage. Now, Hera is occasionally identified with G in the fragment of Euripides. The Aether of Zeus is the sky god, who is the father of men and gods, and the earth goddess G is the mother of all life. And now it also seems that Lo is the priestess of Hera at Argos and consort of Zeus, was another form of Hera. In a Greek myth, Lo was transformed into a cow. This seems to be correlated to how Homer and Iliad uses the formula Bupis, Patnia here, the cow-eyed mistress Hera, suggesting that they may have been syncretized. Yeah. Now, the worship of Hera is sparse. In Thessaly, Attica, Phocis, and Achaea. Now, in Boeotia, she is related to the Fest, Daedala. Now, the main center of her cult was northeastern Peloponnese, especially Argolis, Tiryns, Corinth, Sicyon, Epidaurus, and Hermione. She was worshipped at the Arcadian cities, Mantinea, Megalopolis, Stimpolis, and at Sparta. The oldest temple of Olympia belonged to Hera. In the islands, she was worshipped at Samos, Paros, Delos, Morgos, Thera, Kos, Rhodes, and Crete. Now, the island Euboea was considered her holy place. A month was named after her at Delphi. Heraios. Then you got Hera as the Olympian queen, and also the queen of heaven. The royal quality of her was preserved by the monuments of Greek art. Now, Hera may have been the first deity to whom the Greek gods and the Greek people dedicated an enclosed roof temple sanctuary at Samos, dated back to around 800 BC. It was replaced later by Hieron of Samos, one of the largest of all Greek temples. Altars were in front of the temples under the open sky, and there were many temples built on this site, so the evidence is somewhat confusing, and archaeological dates are uncertain to this. Now the temple created by the and you can see some of the stuff here, because like I said, some of the stuff is fascinating. This is supposed to be Hera in an antique fresco from Pompeii, and Pompeii was the city that was destroyed by the volcano. And then this is supposed to be Hera's temple right here. Like I said, a lot of the stuff is fascinating. Now, earlier sanctuaries whose dedication to Hera is less certain were of the Messenian type, called health sanctuaries. Now, Samos excavations have revealed votive offerings, many of them dating to the late 8th century BCs. which show that Hera at Samos was not merely a local Greek goddess of the Aegean, but the museum there contains figures of gods and supplicants, or suppliants, and other votive offerings from Armenia, Babylon, Iran, Assyria, and Egypt. Um, Now, testimony to the reputation which this sanctuary of Hera enjoyed and the large influx of pilgrims. Compared to this mighty goddess, who was also possessed the earlier temple at Olympia and two of the great 5th and 6th century temples of Paestum, the Termagant of Homer and the myths as an almost iconic figure, according to Burkett. Now, though the greatest and earliest freestanding temple to Hera was of Samos in the Greek mainland, Hera was especially worshipped as Argive, and her sanctuary that stood between the former Messenian city-states of Argos and Messene, where the festivals in her honor called Hyria were celebrated. Now, the three cities I love best, she declares in the Iliad, Book 4, are Argos, Sparta, and Messene of the broad streets, and there were temples to Hera in Olympia, Corinth, Tiryns, Paracora, and the sacred island of Delos. Now, in Magna Graecia, two Doric temples to Hera were constructed at Paestum, which dated between the years 550 BC and about 450 BC, and one of them, one of them, long called the Temple of Poseidon, was identified in the 1950s as the Temple of Hera. Now, the Daedala Fire Festival near Plataea included an account of Hera's quarrel with Zeus and then reconciling. Now Hera's importance in the early archaic period is attested by the large building projects undertaken in her honor. Now, the temples of Hera and the two main centers of her cult, the one at Samos and the one at Argos and the Argolis, were the very earliest monumental Greek temples constructed. Now, in the 8th century BCE, at Argos, the Dorian Herion was built on the hill of Prosimia near the Messenian hero tombs. At Samos, the cult activity near the altar begun in late Messenian period, and a big altar was built in the 9th century BC. During the Hellenistic period, which dates to 330 BC and 300 CE, Greek culture spread outside Greece across the eastern Mediterranean region as a result of the conquest of Alexander the Great. The Hellenistic region was often syncretic, and the Greek gods were identified with local deities as different aspects or names of the same divinity. Now, Hera was identified with various local mother deities. As an example, the work on the Syrian goddess suggests a cult worshipped a goddess that was simultaneously the Syrian goddess, altar goddess, and Hera. Now, this event extends to early Christianity. Some. The legend of Aphrodite identifies Hera with the Virgin Mary, perhaps due to one of Hera's abilities being her miraculous restoration of her own virginity. Now, the importance, according to Walter Burkett, both Hera and Demeter have many characteristic attributes of pre-Greek great goddesses. Now, in the same vein, British scholar Charles Francis Curie suggests that Hera had some sort of earth goddess worship in ancient times, and that was connected to her possible origin as a Pelagesian goddess, as mentioned by Herodotus. Now, in Greece, the Mediterranean goddess of nature is the bride of the Greek sky god. In her fest Daedala, Hera is related to the nymph Platea, consort of Zeus, an old forgotten form of the Greek earth goddess. Platea may be related to Gaia, who's occasionally identified with Hera. According to Homeric hymn, to Apollo, Hera detained Aletheia, to prevent Leto from going into labor with Artemis and Apollo since their father was Zeus. Um, the other goddesses present at the birthing on Delos sent Iris to bring her as she stepped upon the island. The divine birth began, and the myth of the birth of Heracles. It is Hera herself who sits at the door, delaying the birth of Heracles until her protege Eurythesis had been born first. Um, The Homeric hymn to Apollo makes the monster type on the offspring of the archaic Hera in her ancient form, produced out of herself like a monstrous version of Hephaestus, and whelped in a cave at Sicilia. She gave the creature to Python to raise. Now in the temple of Hera, Olympia, Hera is seated a seated cult figure. Hera's seated cult figure was older than the warrior figure of Zeus that accompanied it. Now, Homer expressed her relationship with Zeus delicately in the Iliad, in which she declares to Zeus, "I am Kronos, the eldest daughter, and am an honorable not on this ground only, but also because I am your wife and you are the king of gods." Matriarchy. Now, there has been considerable scholarship dating back to the mid 19th century about the possibility that Hera, whose early importance in Greek religion, is firmly established. And she was originally the goddess of matriarchy people, presumably inhabiting Greece before the Hellenists. And now, in this view, her activity as goddess of marriage established a patriarchal bond of her own subordination. Her resistance to the conquest of Zeus is rendered as Hera's jealousy, the main theme of literary anecdotes that undercuts her ancient cult. Now, however, it remains a controversial claim. It remains a controversial claim that an ancient matriarchy of a cultural focus on a monotheistic Greek of a monotheistic Greek goddess existed among the ancient Greeks or elsewhere. Now, this claim is generally rejected by modern scholars as insufficient evidence because they don't have enough of it. Walter Burkett notices that the ancient Chirotrophus figure is almost absent in Crete, and the nomination mother goddess was not the underlying principle in the Minoan religion. Now, when it comes to youth, now Hera was most known as the matron goddess. Now now with Hera, she presided over weddings as well, but in myth and cult fragmentary references and the archaic practices remain of the sacred marriage of Hera and Zeus. At Plataea, there was a scripture of Hera seated as a bride by Callimachus, as well as the matronly standing Hera. Now, Hera was also worshipped as a virgin, and there was tradition in Stymphalia in Arcadia that there had been a triple shrine to Hera, the adult woman and the separated, as Hera the girl, the adult woman and the separated, widowed or divorced. In the region around Argos, the temple of Hera and Hermione near Argos was to Hera the Virgin, at the spring at Canathos, close to Nauplia. Now Hera renewed her virginity annually, and rites that were not to be spoken of. In her fire festival Daedala at Plataea, the puppet of the goddess was bathed in the river Asopos before the wedding ceremony. Now in the festival Tonia at Samos, the image of the goddess was purified, mounted in willows, and then and probably hanged on a tree. Now Robert Graves interprets this as a representation of the new moon Hebe, the full moon Hera, and an old moon Hecate, respectively personifying the virgin spring and the mother summer and the destroying crone autumn. There's been many festivals to many gods, especially with all of them. Now, the marriage of Zeus with Hera is the main theme in most Greek festivals celebrated in honor of the goddess. In the cults of Hera, the dances and rites are performed by young married women. These choral dances reenacted early myth and ritual. Burkett notices that the disappearing and retrieval of Hera in some cults has parallels with other fertility cults. Now, Burkett notices that the disappearing and the retrieval of Hera in some cults has parallels with other fertility cults, and the Greek myths give a reasonable explanation of the ritual and replicate its structural form. Now, this is accurate when it comes to relating to initiation rituals from youth to maturity. Now, ancient accounts um, ancient accounts refer to the retirement of Hera after a quarrel with Zeus. Now, Hera's wrath may indicate that the wrath and jealousy of the Greek wife. Now, other accounts refer to cultic trees or pillars and rituals of the goddess of vegetation. Some accounts are related to rituals of the Bronze Age before the splitting of the mistress and the animals into separate goddesses. Now, when it comes to Argos, during Hero's famous fest, Hecatomia, which means the 100th oxen, Argive, Heria, the priest of Hera, was carried on a chart drawn by um, by the white heifers to the sanctuary. Now the festival included an armed possession of male citizens, and the prize of the contest was a bronze shield. The Argive festival was a New Year festival, and the new male citizens introduced themselves in the community. It is not verified that the festival was originally a wedding procession ceremony, but at Argos, Hera controlled the seasonal goddess Hore. Near the Heraean of Argos, there was the stream Aletheirion, which means water of freedom. The priests of Hera used it for purifications, and the sacrifices were kept secret. Now, Plataea and Boeotia, the festival Daedala of Hera, was a fire festival. The citizens of Plataea maintained from prehistoric times the processing wedding ceremony. A puppet named Hera was married with Zeus, and the prehistoric times the processional wedding ceremony. A puppet named Hera was married with Zeus. Now, the puppet was washed in the river Asopus, and it was carried on a cow-drawn chart to the top of Cathaeron. And there the puppet was burned together with other idols. And you get the idea going on and on and on. And then you got emblems. In Hellenistic imagery, Hera's chariot was pulled by peacocks, and which were birds not known to Greek, but before the conquest of Alexander. Alexander's tutor Aristotle refers to it as the Persian bird. The peacock motive was revived in the Renaissance iconography that unified Hera and Juno together. A bird that had been associated with Hera on an archaic level, when most of the Aegean goddesses were associated with their bird, was the cuckoo, which appears in mythic fragments concerning the first wooing of a virginal Hera by Zeus. Her archaic association was primarily with the cattle as a cow goddess, who was especially venerated in cattle-rich Euboea. On Cyprus, very early archaic sites contained the bull skulls that had been adapted for use as masks, and see bull mythography, which I might do a video on that. The bull mythography. Her familiar Homeric epithet is always translated to cow-eyed. In this respect, Hera bears some resemblance to the ancient Egyptian deity Hathor, a maternal goddess associated with cattle, and Hera absorbed the cult of her heifer priestess Lo, and may be related to the Vedic earth goddess Prithri. Scholar of Greek mythology Walter Burkett writes, in Greek religion, nevertheless, there are memories of an earlier representation as a pillar in Argos and as a plank in Samos. At Argos in Greek myth, the priestess of Hera, the Phoronis, ties her mistress to an ancient at Samos, Hera's plank was tied on a willow tree to ensure fertility. And then you got many temples to Hera. Which date to between 560 BC and up to 300 BC. In mythology, Hera is the daughter of the Titans Cronus and Rhea, and she is the siblings of Hestia, Demeter, Hades, Poseidon, and Zeus. Cronus was fated to be overthrown by his children. To prevent this, he swallowed all of his newborn children whole until Rhea tricked him into swallowing a stone instead of her youngest child Zeus. And Zeus grew up in secret, and when he grew up, he tricked his father into regurgitating his siblings, including Hera. Zeus then led the revolt against the Titans, and he banished them and divided the dominion over the world with his brothers Poseidon and Hades. Um, Other traditions, however, appear to give Hera different upbringings. The Pausanian states that she was nursed as an infant by the three daughters of the river, Astorian, Eboia, Prosmia, and Acria. Now, furthermore, in the Iliad, Hera states that she was given by her mother to Tethys to be raised. I go now to the ends of the generous earth on the visit to the ocean, whence the gods have risen, and Tethys, our mother, who brought me up kindly in their own house and cared for me and took me from Rhea. And at that time, when Zeus was of the wide brows drove Cronus underneath the earth and the barren water. Now Hera's marriage to Zeus. Hera is the goddess of marriage and childbirth, rather than motherhood, and much of her mythology revolves around her marriage with her brother Zeus. She is charmed by him, and she seduces him, but he cheats on her many times and has many children with other goddesses and mortal women. She is intensely jealous and vindictive towards his children and the mothers of his children, and he is threatening and violent to her. Now, in the Iliad, Zeus implies their marriage was some sort of elopement, as they lay secretly from their parents. The Pausanians record a tale of how they came to be married, in which Zeus transformed into a cuckoo to woo Hera. She caught the bird and kept it as her pet, and this is why the cuckoo is seated on her scepter. According to scholars, when Hera was heading toward Mount Thoronix alone, Zeus created a terrible storm and transformed himself into a cuckoo, who flew down and sat on her lap. Now, Hera covered him with her cloak, and Zeus then transformed back and took hold of her because she was refusing to sleep with him due to their mother, and he promised to marry her. Now, in one account, Hera refused to marry Zeus and hid in a cave to avoid him, and so on and so on. And then you got a marble statue of Hera, which dates back to the 2nd century. And here's that. And you can see the statue of Hera. And then you got a vase painting of a god council, which is Zeus and Hera throning, and Iris serving them, and so on and so on. And I've always been maintained by Greek mythology. I've always been entertained by Greek mythology. And speaking of Greek mythology, one of my friends from work is going on a trip to go see the Parthenon in Greece, and he's also going to go see the Roman Colosseum in Italy. I'm so jealous because those are two places I've always wanted to go to, even though I am afraid of heights, and you got to take a plane or a boat to get there. So he's going to go see that. I'm so jealous. And my job is paying for it because he goes to school through the job that I work for, and so do I. I go to school through my job, and my job pays for me to go to school. And they also pay for my courses and my course books, and so whatever. And he's going to study abroad, and my job is paying for it all, and so is the school. They're paying part of it anyway. Now Hera is the stepmother and enemy of Heracles. Now Heracles means glory of Hera. In Homer's Iliad, when Alcmene was about to give birth to Heracles, Zeus announced to all the gods that on that day a child by Zeus himself would be born and rule all those around him. Hera, after requesting Zeus to swear an oath to the effect, descended from Olympus to Argos and made the wife Stephanos, the son of Perseus, give birth to Eurystheus after only 7 months. But yeah. Then you also got a painting of the Milky Way. This is the origin of the Milky Way. That could be something I could do a video on too. I could do a video on the bull mythology or the origin of how the Milky Way came up. Um, even stuff about the universe interests me too. Um, there's been a lot of let's get down here for a minute. You also got a lot of base paintings. You got Judgment of Paris Side B from the attic Black Figure Neck Emperor. This is in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and this was dated back to about 540, between 540 and 530 BC. Then you got another painting. This is the many works depicting the event, where Hera is the goddess in the center. And then in the other god here, you got Hermes, Athena, Zeus, seated, and Hera and Ares all named. And this is a side A of an attic black figure neck Bora, which dates to the 6th century BC, and this is held in a museum in Paris, France. And then you got Hero and Prometheus, Tondo of a 5th century BC cup from Etruria. And this is a Hero in the pediment of the Academy of Athens. And then Hero's children are Angelos, so now we can get this through here. Now, Angelos, her story only survives in Scholia and Theocritus' Idol too. She was raised by nymphs. One day, she stole Hera's anointments and gave them away to Europa. To escape her mother's wrath, she tried to hide, but Hera eventually ceased prosecuting her, and Zeus ordered the Cabaroi to cleanse Angelos. Now, they performed the purification rites in the waters of the lake into the underworld. Consequently, she received the world of the dead as her realm of influence, and was assigned the epithet she of the underworld. Ares, god of war. According to Hesiod's Theogony, he was the son of Zeus and Hera. Argy, a nymph daughter of Zeus and Hera. Charites, even though her father's not named, though usually considered as the daughter of Zeus and Eurynomi, or Dionysus and Coronis. According to Nonnus, the poet Calothus makes them the daughter of Hera without naming a father. Aletheia, and the Greek Theogony and other sources, she is described as the daughter of Hera by Zeus. Now, although the meticulously accurate mythographer Pindar in the seventh Nemean Ode mentions Hera as Aletheia's mother, but makes no mention of Zeus. Eleutheria. Eleutheria is the Greek counterpart of Liberty, daughter of Jupiter, which is Zeus's Roman counterpart, and Juno, which is Hera's Roman counterpart, as cited in Hyginus. Enyo. She was responsible for the destruction of cities and an attendant of Ares, although Homer equates Enyo with Eris. Now, Eris, she appears in Homer's Iliad's Book 4, equated with Enyo as the sister of Ares, and so presumably the daughter of Zeus and Hera. Alternatively, Hesiod refers to Ares as the daughter of Nyx in both Works and Days and Theogony. Now, Hebe. Hebe is the daughter of Zeus and Hera. In a rare alternative version, Hera alone protected Hebe after being impregnated by eating lettuce. Hephaestus, attested by the Greek poet Hesiod, Hera was jealous of Zeus's giving birth to Athena and Metis, so she gave birth to Hephaestus without union with Zeus. Though Homer has Hephaestus referred to Father Zeus, Hera was then disgusted with Hephaestus' ugliness and threw him from Mount Olympus. In a version of the myth, Hephaestus gained revenge against Hera for rejecting him by making her a magical throne that did not allow her to leave once she sat on it. Now, the other gods begged Hephaestus to return to Olympus to let her go, but he repeatedly refused. Dionysus got him drunk and took him back to Olympus on the back of a mule. Hephaestus released Hera after being given Aphrodite as his wife. Um, Pasithea. Although in other works Pasithea doesn't seem to be born to Hera, Nonnus made the grace Hera's daughter. Elsewhere in the book, Pasithea's father is said to be Dionysus. But it's unclear whether those two together are meant to be Pasithea's parents. And then you got Prometheus and Typhon. Okay, that's the end of our video for today. We did go about an hour. But so tell me next week what video you want me to do a video on. We can do, there's going to be several of them I'm putting out. And these are the ones we're going to look at. So we got this right here. So we can talk about the werewolf, about the story of the werewolf, Vlad the Impaler, or Pandora's Box, or the Trojan War. And then we can also go about the bull mythology, or we can do the origin of Milky Way. Let me know what you guys want me to do a video on. And then that would entertain me as much. Yeah, we could do one about the sacred bull. That's like a bull mythology thing. Okay, so yeah, okay. So the story. So next week we can talk about the werewolf, Vlad the Impaler, the 10-year Trojan War, or the bull. And then let me know what you guys want me to talk about. And leave your comments. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, Wesley the King, if you want more videos like this. You can also check out my other YouTube channel where I break down my job at UPS and give you a take on the life of a UPSer on my other YouTube channel, RVW King. You can check that out at your own leisure. And that is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll be back sometime next week for another video. I hope you guys enjoyed.